plot twists. There's no doubt that a good plot twist is one of the elements that can make a story truly memorable. Does Pokemon have good plot twists? Today, let's take a look at the most notable ones throughout the generations, starting with Gen 4. Now that's an unexpected twist. We all remember Cyrus, one of the purest incarnations of evil in the saga, who sought the total destruction of the world to create a new one for reasons that were not entirely clear in Diamond and Pearl. But in Platinum, his extra appearances and mentions allowed us to see a bit more of his vision. Cyrus viewed the cosmos as a perfect mechanism, a clock of stars turning with absolute precision. Every moment, every atom, every heartbeat of time was an exact note in the infinite melody of the universe. But there was a fracture in that eternal harmony, the wild and unpredictable spirit which with a single breath could defy celestial mathematics, shattering the world's perfection into 1,000 pieces. His ideals are admirable. Do you agree? Yes? Well then, come with me to the police station, because these nuances to his philosophy don't make him any less sinister, but they do make him more solid and self-aware. In Diamond and Pearl, Cyrus was pretty ridiculous. His actions were more like a childish tantrum, so his story ended in a rather insignificant, just leaving after being defeated. But in Platinum, by giving more context to his psychology and showing us a deeper worldview, they were subtly hinting that his story was going to have a deeper resolution, maybe even a redemption. And that's exactly what happened. Cyrus went around chasing a world free of spirit, the virus that created unexpected and unpredictable events and tainted the perfect harmony of a world where everything worked as expected. Reality was sick, and only he could cure it. And when that happened, only he would be there to witness that harmony. And in the end, Cyrus found himself in that soulless world. And paradoxically, in a twist of fate, things still kept working unpredictably. He is the only villain in the saga who achieved his victory. A deeply sinister, twisted, and brief one, but a victory nonetheless. Maybe things wouldn't have ended this way if someone had done their job properly, but it seems that all that evil didn't just come out of nowhere. On the contrary, it was inherited by someone who was willing to take things even further. Volo's story in Legends Arceus is the most conventional plot twist, so to speak, in the series. Let's be honest, it wasn't that hard to predict in a past Sinnoh that an ancestor of Cynthia, who's been following us from the very beginning with a constantly passive-aggressive attitude, would end up being the final boss. For me, the most interesting thing about this character is precisely his parallel with the original antagonist of Sinnoh, and at the same time, how opposite they are. Both want to create a new world according to their twisted vision of what it should be, but while Cyrus is driven by extreme nihilism and an obsession with mathematics and logic, Volo is pure idealism and religious fanaticism. I feel like with these two, they wanted to show us how the same evil impulse can manifest in completely opposite ways. But while both of them revel in that peaceful hell, at the same time, in the same time frame, someone was waiting at the world's summit. The biggest plot twist of the second generation was waiting at the end of the journey on Mount Silver. A final enemy unlike anything seen before in the series, none other than Satoshi Tajiri, making Larvitar catchable just about 2 minutes before finishing the game. At least in Crystal, they put it in the game corner about 10 minutes before the end. And there's no doubt that the most iconic twist of this generation, maybe of the whole series, was discovering that the final challenge to overcome is yourself. Red, the embodiment of the player from the first generation 3 years ago, to prove that all that time and all those adventures meant something, and that you're ready to keep following that path through the generations. Blah, blah, blah. I've probably talked about all this like 17 times already, so let's cut to the chase. But speaking about the plot twist itself, few have ever been executed with such mastery. From very early on, in the first moments of the game, seeds are planted about the feats of a legendary trainer who walked the same path as us. Do we defeat Team Rocket? Well, we're told that this was just a cheap, watered-down version, that the real Team Rocket in its prime was defeated by a young man 3 years ago. Do we make it as champions? Well, the champion himself admits that he only took back the title after that same young man gave it up. Do we finally gain access to the Forbidden Area Mount Silver after earning all 16 badges? Well, someone did it before us and is waiting for us there. All the events we experience and take part seem to echo the feats of a legend who lived 3 years ago. Now, put yourself in the shoes of someone who played the Johto games right after the first generation. You couldn't help but feel excited to see that all those references are actually about none other than yourself. But when the game shows you that they're not just references, that you actually have to defeat that previous version of yourself to prove you're worthy of carrying on this legacy, it's a majestic grand finale. Gold and silver indeed. But not every plot twist happens at the summit under a shower of diamonds. Some are found in the depths of the world, in a shadowy laboratory where an evil calm hangs in the air. The revelation about the professor's situation in Scarlet and Violet is probably the most shocking event we've seen in the series. I won't deny that the game makes it pretty clear from the start that something strange is going on, since it's the first time the professor not only refuses to give us the opening speech about the Pokemon world, but we only ever see them through a screen and never actually meet them in person. And their own child Arven tells us how the professor's sudden shift to an indifferent attitude is what made him flee the great crater of Paldea in a flying taxi, and that's why they became so distant. The hints that something strange surrounds this character are constant. When we descend into Area Zero, the atmosphere gets more and more tense, and you can just tell that something bad is about to happen. Okay, but no matter what anyone says, nobody could have expected that the professor in a Pokemon game would have died before the event of the game even started. And that twist, as unexpected as it is, isn't just something the game pulls out of nowhere for shock value. Paldea is the land of freedom, and I'm not just saying that because of its open world, or because it seems like at the schools people go to class whenever they feel like it. The motto of this land is to follow your own path and to find your own way of understanding that world, to discover your treasure, which for some means becoming stronger, for others protecting those who suffer, for others saving the ones they love, and for others simply having fun. But in any case, the new generations of Paldea burn with the fire of determination that comes from within. That's why the final revelation is so powerful. The professor is someone who wasn't satisfied with just searching for their treasure. They wanted to create their own paradise, a place to live happily with the one they loved most. We don't know where that idea came from, although it's hinted that coming into contact with the power of the crystals and the wonders described in the Scarlet or Violet book is what made them obsessed with making that paradise a reality. After showing us what someone is capable of when they follow their own path with conviction, the revelation of the professor's death comes to show us that this gift is a double-edged sword. That fire is our drive, but out of control, it turns into a blaze that destroys everything we were fighting for in the first place, turning that search for paradise into a personal hell. The best plot twist. Unless one day the mystery of who Clive is gets revealed and surprises us all. I suspect it might be Larry in disguise, trying to get out of working overtime. What do you all think? The best plot twist of the 7th generation has also been with us from the very beginning. That little rascal by our side from the very first moments the opening scene of the game is revealed in its epic climax to be the legendary on the cover, Solgaleo, or Lunala. Again, it's not a twist that stands out for being unexpected, since it's pretty obvious. From the very moment we see that the Ether Foundation had it subjected to experiments, and we learn that they wanted to reach Ultra Space at all costs, given that the region's legends speak of a being with the power of the stars who travels between worlds, the connection is pretty obvious. Even its own design is similar to a nebula before it becomes a star. There are plenty of hints that this is going to happen, to the point that Lily herself seems to sense it. She's the one who takes us to the altar, feeling that Nebby will reveal its true power there. What's amazing about the story, for me, is the very fact that it's about the cover legendary. After 20 years of this, repeating the formula of ancient deities hidden in remote places who only appear at the climax, having the legendary Pokemon travel with us from the very beginning was a real breath of fresh air. It was as if, instead of reading old stories from a library, we were writing the legend ourselves with every new adventure. There, that legendary figure accompanies her loyal companion on one last adventure so that finally, after so much struggle, she can be reunited with her mother. In the end, this is a love story. A timid and fearful girl who gathers the courage to set out and during her journey grows enough to save her mother by confronting her. A gesture of redemption, tenderness, and hope. And the stars, shining in the background, bear witness to that reunion. And far, far away from there, someone watches those same stars in silence, as if they were whispering the secrets of the world to them. Sorry, I got carried away into another universe. Without a doubt, the best plot twist in Hoenn was revealed to us in the remakes. Unless someone was actually surprised that Steven was the champion. The Delta episode had its questionable moments, but in that whirlwind of events, almost offhandedly, we're given one of the most astonishing revelations in Pokemon. One with such huge implications that it's impossible to see the series the same way ever again. The confirmation of the multiverse. And we're not just talking about the video game timeline, because ever since the first remakes came out, which overrode the events of the first generation, it was undeniable that a Pokemon multiverse existed, with different versions of the same events. But in this Delta episode, it was confirmed that this isn't just a technical issue that affects players, but rather a living part of the reality within the games themselves, that every story we're told is just one of the infinite realities, and that these worlds aren't isolated but can actually interact with each other. The scientists in that Hoenn with Mega Evolutions intended to send the meteorite threatening their world to the version of Hoenn from Ruby and Sapphire on the Game Boy Advance, which had much more limited technology and would be completely defenseless against such an attack. In Zinnia's own words, it's a Hoenn almost identical to the one we know, but where Mega Evolution never happened and the meteorite never appeared. I don't think the community is fully aware of what those words imply. Up until then, remakes or alternative stories from spin-offs or third versions were simply playthroughs, but this confirms that even though all those stories happen at the same time, they are connected. Even more striking, these can interact with each other, turning elements that until then seemed like just technical or gameplay features like the link cable or the Poke Transfer into ways for those infinite realities to interact, blending the real world with the narrative of the games. Everything is written in the stars.